Well, good afternoon and welcome everyone to the Maryland Recycling Network's webinar on effective options for battery recycling and collection. Let's see if I can get I'm Peter Houseful, MRN's Executive Director, and we'll soon be joined by Mark Steadman from Call to Recycle. He'll help us learn how to safely navigate the daunting journey from new battery to hazardous waste. But before we go there, let me take a minute to look at what's coming up on our calendar. On October 17th, we'll hear from Community Forklift about catalyzing community good through building material reuse. And I know C&D is a big issue for a lot of folks in the community. And then on November 21st, Eric Grabowski and Adam Rydell will bring us up to date on Arlington County's innovative pilot program with Big Belly to collect food scraps from bins located outside multifamily properties. And I think most people in the recycling world will agree that multifamily and commercial are two of the biggest opportunities we have to really expand our diversion of food waste and recycling from from landfills. And then last but not least, be sure to mark your calendars for the 2025 MRN SWANA Mid-Atlantic Conference, which will be held on Monday, June 9th at the Turf Valley Conference Center. That's Monday, June 9th at the Turf Valley Conference Center. Hope you can join us for that. And then on the admin side of things, please feel free to post any questions or comments in the chat box. And we'll be posting a recording of the webinar, which you're welcome to share with any and all who might be interested after the webinar is over. Probably be up sometime tomorrow or at the latest on Monday. So while most of these programs are free, they depend on the financial support of our members. So let me start off by offering a big thank you to all of our current members. Though, as I'm sure you've heard me say on many occasions, we don't have any non-members. We just have paying members and non-paying members. So if you're one of those non-paying members, please head over to our website after this program and join today. You can become a paying member for as little as $25 a year, and that's like 50 cents a week. So thank you very much in advance for joining the Maryland Recycling Network. And speaking of support, I want to give a big shout out to our sustaining and patron members whose contributions, along with that of all of our members, help us continue to support your efforts to drive reduction, reuse, and recycling in Maryland. Okay, without further ado, it's time to turn the mic and the screen over to Mark so he can share his battery solutions with you. Mark, take it away.
All right, so thank you, Peter. And I just want to say to all the members and everybody that's joined today, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to be able to come talk to you a little bit about batteries. And at end of life and some solutions on capturing those batteries effectively and making sure that they're packaged properly to be put on the road, so that there's no hopefully no additional thermal event, and that they get to where they need to be and processed effectively. My name is Mark Steadman. I am part of the Sales and Solutions team at Call to Recycle, and I will talk a little bit about who Call to Recycle is and our function in the battery space. And my gut tells me that quite a few on this call know who we are. Maybe you don't know about how we were birthed, or some of the details on how we function in the different markets. So I'll talk a little bit about that, but really want to focus today on batteries that are end of life, and particularly in the area of damaged, defective, recalled, and getting those packaged safely according to 49 CFR and PHMSA, and putting on the road so that to satisfy the regs that DOT has put in place. So with that, let me just give you just a quick blip. I lost my slide on who I am and what I do. A little bit of background on me. So I've been in the industry going on about 25 years in the solid waste recycling, hazardous waste industry. and am really knowledgeable on the transporting, processing, and disposal of both solid and hazardous waste. My inception into batteries has been in the last 5-7 years on the processing side with one of the end processors, and now with Call to Recycle. And love this space, love to be able to help companies and municipalities and cities, et cetera, find solutions for end-of-life batteries. Just true or false, you are never more than 3 feet away from a spider. True. So, and I can attest to that. This morning, I had one very large one, about the quarter size, crawling on my foot in my bathroom. So, just a fun fact. All right, next question. You are never more than 3 feet away from a lithium-ion battery. That is also true. I guarantee you, if you look around your desk or whatever your surroundings are right now, you've got something with a lithium-ion battery in. And the reason, I'll just make a side note. Lithium-ion based batteries seem to be, making headline news, if not daily, almost weekly now with the thermal events that we've been seeing. And, quite frankly, I think we're going to see more as batteries become more part of our everyday lives. And so, again, just a fun fact, but again, a fact for awareness, right? So just a quick facts regarding batteries and batteries in end of life. Currently, predominantly what we see in the industry on capture are predominantly post-consumer batteries. So whether they be in devices or collected at a HHW, which I'm sure there's quite a few of you all that are involved in those that are on the call today, or say from one of our collections, and we'll talk a little bit about that at the nationally at Home Depots and Lowe's and Staples, etc. But so right now we predominantly see the post-consumer batteries. This was a really interesting breakout by percentages that I thought I would share. But if you look at that gigawatt comparatively to an individual cell phone battery, right? So that's 6 billion phones, and then the e-bikes, you can do the math, but as time goes on, and very quickly, we're going to see here, in less than 20 years, that the EV market will overtake that as they become more prevalent in the auto sales markets. So let's just talk a little bit about, I'm going to talk a little bit about safety concerns, and then we're gonna dive in a little bit into Call to Recycle and the role that we play. So thermal event, we've all now aware of, as mentioned, we are all aware of the thermal events that have been going on that have made national news. Some that stand out are the ship that caught fire in the Alaska. There was a utility battery backup in Southern California, just south of San Diego, that made national news here a couple months ago. There was the thermal event a couple years ago in Morris, Illinois, where EVs were being stored in a warehouse. And so it just just from awareness sake, safety and the potential injury for property and workers throughout the waste industry, thermal events are a great concern with that. I'll note here that I've noted that commingling, that is a safety concern, and there is an exception to that. We're going to talk about that with a very specific packaging that Call to Recycle has for the industry. Improper packaging is definitely a concern, and often is the route to some thermal events that we see, and then improper identification, right, of a damaged battery. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So I've got a video here I want to show you all, and I think that most of us may be able to identify with this. And let me just play it here for us. And this comes to us by our a partner in Australia. So obviously, there are probably as many battery embedded devices that are discarded because people just don't know, what to do with them. So they assume that they can just toss them over into the garbage. Well, I would say even those that are in the solid waste industry on call today may echo this, but probably 80% plus of the thermal events that they see on their trucks or in their trucks or at their MRFs at the material recovery facilities are battery related. So let's talk a little bit about, to change gears a little bit, we're going to talk a little bit about Call to Recycle, as I mentioned, and then we'll dive more into batteries, specifically lithium ion and lithium primary. So for those that don't know who we are and what we do, so Call to Recycle was birthed out of the Battery Act back in the late 80s, early 90s, where, as I understand, the EPA recognized the need, there were higher levels of mercury and lead in the industry. One of those areas that they tracked source back to battery manufacturers. So the push was to put more responsibility on the battery manufacturers for end-of-life batteries. And so we ended up being birthed out of that to help the industry, manufacturing industry of batteries, to capture batteries at end of life. So we represent, I think the list has now grown to close to 400, what we call stewards. So the Energizers, Everreadys, Excides of the world, and the list is exhaustive. Those are just the ones that come to mind, as well as now manufacturers of battery embedded devices. So Stanley Black & Decker, DeWalt, Milwaukee, and those again, that list is exhaustive. And so in order to support them, we created, there were programs that were birthed. We have national programs that are with the Home Depots and at Lowe's, Staples, Best Buy, where you can go in to the front of the store, and I'm sure that some of you all have taken advantage of this, where you can take your batteries in, and the collection bins are actually managed by Call to Recycle. And then those batteries are, when those bins are full, are shipped to end processors, and they are consolidated and where they are further sorted, and because they have to be sorted by chemistry, right? And by and some of those integrated battery end of life battery processors are also integrated with sorting. But the batteries are sorted by type, and then they're processed into all different kinds of raw materials at the end of life. Most of the industry now, those that are what I would call the big three in the battery recycling industry, what I like to call the race to the moon, is getting that raw material back to a place where they'll be able to use it right back into a new battery. And they are always there are multiple types of processes and thought in that, and they are getting to the place where they're able to get that to scale. And I think that soon we won't be as reliant as we are now on other countries to source that material, and we'll be able to draw it out of our own batteries that we are collecting here in the US and Canada. So they show up everywhere, right? And we're all aware of this. Consumer electronics, we talked about this, outdoor power equipment, smart homes, wearables. Wearables is really has taken as a big leap. Actually, and alongside of that, the e-transportation, a big space, right? We're seeing a lot more e-bikes and scooters on the street today. Energy storage as well. I mentioned the battery backup in San Diego that had the thermal event. So this used to be the way things were, right? These were predominantly the devices were predominantly NiCad, and I bet there are some of those of us on the call today that had a flip phone, that had a BlackBerry, and remember the names of Circuit City and Radio Shack. But today, you know, the trend has changed, and you know we're seeing an insurgence of lithium-ion products, so base products, so automobiles, phones, etc. So there was in the past a mindset that you just throw the battery away and go to the landfill. Well, that's not the case anymore, right? And so we as a organization push our main goal, if you really to boil it down to the core, is to capture all batteries, and that includes alkaline based batteries. So again, how do we do that? And how do we collect? So we do that through, and we collect, so to back up, we collect all chemistries, and even on the industrial side, we collect large format, whether they be, wet chemistries. We can help support the movement of those as well. But predominantly what we see are post-consumer. So all in the form of battery packs, individual cells, battery embedded devices. So both rechargeable and single use, and then also cell phones, and they all come through the program. So what happens to the batteries? I touched on this a little bit. Each chemistry, when it's separated, goes for further processing and is used in a myriad of devices and applications, all of which touch our lives every single day. So current state, a battery is a battery is a battery. So what I mean by this is, it has got, when you recycle that cell, it can be continue recycled over and over and over again, very similar to a UBC or aluminum can that we would drink out of. If you build it, what they will come. So what we mean here is that we put together programs and our constituents or municipalities and residents in our areas are aware that there is a program. Well, then they'll go to their what I like to call the gold mine that everybody has in their home, and that's that collection drawer in their kitchen usually, or in the utility room, of things they can't throw away, right? Like cell phones, and they don't know what to do with cell phones and batteries. Well, we are working to put together programs so that it gives the consumer a place to recycle their batteries, and supporting those that are currently got those programs in place. So again, education, and awareness. It really does start early, and we recognize that we can't reach everyone as an organization, and that's why we need everybody on this call as support in the roles that you all play in the industry to touch those that we don't, and to make them aware that there's opportunities out there to collect their batteries and stave them out of the landfill stream. So, and we're not just saving the planet anymore. We're talking about raw materials that will be used back into making a new battery. Again, staving off our reliance on other sources outside of our borders to rely on that material. So lithium-ion batteries, we'll dive in a little bit deeper. The Class 9 and through the 49 CFR, and so there's the placard. They show up, as I mentioned, they show up in multiple different forms. I'll point out that the recycling symbol, it says recycle in the 800 number there. That recycling symbol that is on batteries, that if you take a look at some of the batteries you may have in your house now, and you look for that symbol, that was part of our inception when we first got started. And so that part of that responsibility of that being on the batteries was birthed from Call to Recycle. So difference between lithium ion and lithium primary is simply rechargeability. Lithium ion can be recharged, so you're seeing those in your cell phones, in your the EVs, and rechargeable power tools. Lithium primary, one-time use, it's got a long life. You'll see these show up in your key fobs and some one-time use flashlights, etc. Just again, examples of where they show up. We all know these. The ion batteries, where they show up. So we saw earlier a video that I showed regarding a thermal event. This is a much more specific video. And again, that just to point out, that is a push pin. And this is, in this case, this is a laptop battery. So let's take a look. So pretty dramatic. right? At its highest level, or at its hottest level, lithium can burn at up to and hotter 2000 degrees. And so at that single cell level. So obviously that heat can consume and will consume everything around it. And I'm sure that those on a call here today, there's some that can probably give testimony to the results of that and what you all have experienced. So let's talk a minute about the DDR versus end of life EOL. So it can be obvious, but sometimes it can't be, right? So excuse me, the obvious are swelling batteries, they leak, but you can also get overheating. It can be a consistent overheating, can be a sign of damage. And just as a side, I think that we are probably now that we have this this new term that is floating around is charging anxiety, right? Especially with EVs. Do I have enough charge to go on my trip? Is there a charging station between here for me? I'm in Detroit. Is there a charging station between here and Chicago? Right. So with that, we overcharge everything. What do we do when we come in our offices? We set our laptops down, we plug them in, they stay plugged in all day long, right? Where they were never designed to do that. They were designed to be charged, used, the battery depleted, and then plugged back in, recharged. And we're notorious with our cell phones. And where do we plug up our cell phones? At night, a lot of us next to our beds, right next to us, right? So my recommendation, get your phone down to where it's at the sweet spot of that 8 to 10%, plug it in, bring it back up, and then put your phone in a setting where it will stop charging when it's done, right? Let your laptop run off of its battery in your office if you're able to, with your docking station, and then plug it back in when it needs to be. That information's free of charge. No pun intended. So we really specialize on it. So I like to look at us as a Y functionality. So the one axis of the Y, we function in the space of working directly with states that have legislated collection programs in place. So some of the oldest: state of Vermont, state of New York, state of Washington, California, Minnesota, state of Illinois is about to bring a program on. We just rolled a program out into the District of Columbia, and there are others. So we work really close to roll out collection programs to help support the communities and municipalities at the state level. And then the other axis is sales and solutions. So we work directly, as I mentioned, with retail, with Home Depots and Lowe's, Staples, and then industry, environmental companies, waste companies, etc., to help them find solutions and put in place solutions to capture their batteries effectively and safely.
Mark, a couple questions from the
please
chat.
go ahead. Please.
It might be germane to this. I think this is where you're going, but I want to make sure we get there. And Cynthia wanted to learn about how she can safely store the batteries until they're picked up for collection. Obviously, they don't want any more fires. And I know a lot of the hazardous household waste depositories in the counties have places where they stick batteries, but then the question is, well, how long do they stay there? When the sun gets up to, when the temperature gets up to 110 degrees, what do we do about that?
Right.
And also, Richard asked about the prevalence of embedded batteries versus loose batteries. And I think your video obviously indicated the problem inherent in embedded batteries that we may not recognize as such, which probably pose an even greater risk potentially of fire.
Great question. So I'll do my best to answer them now, and we're going to get to the answer to the first question. We're going to get to that, to the answer to that here in just a couple minutes. There is an inherent challenge and issue with end of life battery embedded devices because you can't see the state of the battery, right? Some of them in some toys and lighting, etc. You cannot, it's not easily accessible to take the battery out, right? To see it and to know what its state of health is. So what do? We take that toy and we, again, as I mentioned, we throw it away, right? And I will tell you that the challenge with battery embedded devices, and I'm sure that others can speak to this more eloquently than I can, but from a recyclability standpoint, they're really not they're not easy to recycle. There are companies out there that are able to take what I would call small batch battery embedded in devices, and they will actually physically remove the battery one device by one device, or their processes allow them to shred the device. The lights, what I would call the lights, float, the heavy sink, and they're able to collect out further in their process the heavy metals and battery material to further process. But they are a challenge, and they are becoming more and more prevalent as days go on. Like just look at an Amazon website and you'll see thousands of devices have got a battery that's embedded in them. So there's no easy answer to that right now, but we are working. We do take them and we do send them for further processing. I just personally wish that, being on that side of the business, wish that it was up to full scale and we were able to take more or be able to process more faster. So I'll continue and then and we'll get to that first question, answer that first question here in just a minute. So damaged defective batteries, obviously they're an immediate hazard. They do emit dangerous smoke, gas, fire, and the risk of fire. As I mentioned, they start to show some signs of swelling. Sometimes they don't show signs at all. I mean the picture on the right shows a phone that was plugged in just to be charged. It wasn't. There was no bulge or distinction in where there was damage, and it had a thermal event. So I go back to always check your phone for overheating. If it's overheating, there's a reason why. And even, your charger, it may be the type of charger you're using. Always recommend to use the charger that came with the device. Again, we were talking, I mentioned damaged, defective, and shipping them according to the PHMSA DOT regs. We have packaging that satisfies all of that. Every one of our packaging and our packages is under a special permit for the DOT and can be shipped through a common carrier, depending on the size, or through an LTL. So how do we reach out and educate through different media. So we provide safety materials and training. We also partner with others in the industry. We heard from Steve Drucke back earlier in the year, who's with Battalion Response. And he didn't pay me to say this, but I'll just say that, just as use him as the example for further detailed training to come on site and to provide training to help understand packaging better and what the regs are, and then just do hands-on training. So we partner with organizations and companies like his own. And then we also have our own marketing campaigns. Avoid the Spark was a campaign, as an example, that we ran some years back in the state of California. Other areas that we have birthed and created to help, again, capture batteries that we're seeing that are what I would call new to the market, right? We have a national e-bike program where if you go to our website, you put in your zip code, chances are within about 10 miles of your zip code, you're going to find a collection site where you can take your batteries to be recycled. We have an e-bike specific page that you can take your e-bike battery to when it's end of life. And the battery shops, we work with thousands of battery shops and mainline battery manufacturers like Trek, Specialized. Those are a couple that come to mind where the battery is recycled end of life through a mail back program that we have, and it ends up at a end of life processor. Same thing with the high energy batteries. Again, DeWalt, Stanley Black & Decker, Milwaukee come to mind there. And then we also have an EV program where we work with the big three and dealers. So when there is an EV battery that needs to be recycled at the end of life, we help support that and get it to where it needs to go to be recycled. So this is how I would answer the first question. We have, and I mentioned this earlier, we have a product that's called One Drum. Some of you may have heard of it. Some of you may currently use it in your programs. But I'll tell you that there's not anything like it else on the market today. And I love this product because what it is under special permit for DOT, and what it allows is for the collection site, particularly I like to say for like HHWs and the environmental and waste industry, I'll point them out, where they will use this to collect different batteries, different chemistries, and what I like to call a battery lasagna or battery parfait. The batteries do not have to be individually bagged or terminals taped. The permit allows for them to be shipped together, again, with layers of the fire retardant material and then labeled and then picked up LTL. Again, saves labor. It's very quick. And again, a safe way of transporting materials. And, to this point, to this day, we have not had one issue with this product or in the shipping of materials.
Mark, quick question from our
Sure.
audience.
Sure.
This really goes to the issue of storage, and somebody observed that, how can Target, for example, or Best Buy or any of these places just have a box sitting out there where people throw their batteries in and maintain some kind of integrity and safety in that environment. Is there any movement to change that paradigm, or is that pretty much what we're stuck with?
No, that there is 100% movement, and we are actually that question couldn't be more poignant. We are actually working with Home Depot and Lowe's to change the packaging over. And so I think what you're going to see in the near future are these containers that are specifically designed for heavier amounts of lithium ion, or lithium-based batteries. What I would say is this, though: what we have typically seen, or the industry has seen over the years, is that 80% plus of the batteries that are being recycled at those public facilities are actually alkaline zinc-based batteries, which really pose no threat, no thermal threat. However, obviously, we deter from going in the landfill, but that's predominantly what we have been seeing in the past. Now, with the onslaught of heavier lithium use, we are seeing more of those, and we are moving in that direction. So the answer to that question is yes. Those boxes were designed to be fire retardant. However, we all know, they're not always packaged. The batteries aren't always packaged properly. They're not always taped. And, someone may just throw all their batteries together in a Ziploc bag and throw them into one of those bins. And that is what we are working to improve on. So great question. And
so on a related front, Mark, obviously they aren't here yet, but they're certainly coming. The much larger EV batteries and the home solar capture batteries that are being installed.
Right.
Crazy. Eventually will also reach an end of life and need some kind of processing. Obviously, we won't be able to take them down to Lowe's and Home Depot. And I'm guessing they wouldn't fit in the one drum too gracefully. Is that something that's on your radar screen?
It is, and we are currently capturing them. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have the national EV, what we call EV green tracks, and that has been rolled out both in US and Canada. And then, so when we do get the request for the and they're predominantly lithium ion based for the solar backup. When we get those requests, we can help the municipality or consumer get those picked up and packaged properly, picked up and recycled.
Thank you.
So that is currently happening. However, it is not, not something where, when they do get dropped off at an HHW, as long as we know that they're there, and it's communicated to us, we can help support getting those picked up. They are, like I mentioned, need to be packaged a little bit differently, but in the end, we can help provide a solution for those.
Great.
Just some testimonies on how well the product operates and functions and success. Yeah, we look at the path forward is not only to recycle, but just we recognize that we've got to work collectively with every aspect of the industry, right? So, I hate to use the phrase because it's been used so much, but it really does take a village, so to speak, particularly in the capture batteries, to really make it work. And it's going to continue to take a collective effort to work together in order to, keep them out of the landfill, to get them recycled, and the education push to make sure that they're packaged properly. So with that, I know that I've thrown out a lot of information. I'm happy to take any questions that you all may have, and certainly do not hesitate. I'll throw this out there. Do not hesitate to reach out if you have any further questions, or send me an email, and I'd be happy to schedule some time that we can talk. And if you want to look at putting something together, we can support you in your program. Please reach out. So with that,
Mark,
Peter, I'll turn it back over to you.
Sure. Richard was asking, would the one drum be capable of handling DDR batteries?
Good question, and the answer to that is no. The DDR packaging. So, DDR packaging is I guess in simple terms, is an extra level of protection, and the one drum is only for end of life batteries. So we do have packaging that is similar to the one drum and our high watt hour DDR drum, that it can be packaged the same way. The weight tolerances on it are less, but happy to talk to you more about that if you're interested.
Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions at the moment. As Mark suggested, please don't hesitate to reach out to him and send any questions you may have regarding what's on your mind about batteries. We'll do our best to help out. Let me see if I got myself set up properly here. I think so. So with that, let's have a big round of applause for Mark.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. And just to remind everybody, we've got a number of events coming up on October 17th, the community forklift presentation, and then on November 21st, the folks from Arlington talking about their Big Belly program in the county to really reach out to multifamily and collect food scraps from apartment buildings, which is pretty innovative. And then, of course, the conference coming on June 9th, 2025 at the Turf Valley Conference Center. And then, of course, I have to remind you once again, for those of you who are not a member, please be sure to stop by the website and sign up today. Appreciate all the help we can get. And again, thank you to all the people who continue to support MRN with their membership dues and with their sponsorship of the conference and all the other programs that we do. And once again, thanks again to Mark, and everybody have a great day. Hopefully it'll be a little drier this afternoon, and we'll see you in a month or so. Thanks.
Thank you all.